Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Everybody, welcome. I want to welcome you to the show. This is a very special edition here. Become the architect of your life and master the winds of change. Joining me here today is somebody that has been on my show before, but I just want to say that when we think about a couple of the things I'm about to say right now, you want to get a hold of Sharon de Ryck. And you want to do that in a number of ways. Well, make sure you know how. Why? Because when you're Sharon, you have stepped out into the world. You opened the Healing Path Center in 1999, started a journey, Reiki master, and then has cultivated a phenomenal way of transmitting information to all of us that will help us lift up and rise again. And, you know, this morning I was listening to a show that I listened to, and the message of this particular half-hour show was ask big. And I just had this conversation with someone about it, and I thought about what that is and why we are so afraid to ask. And I don't know that this is a case across the board. I work mostly with women, but I really do find that this is one of the toughest nuts to crack. Now, not all areas of your life, because when it comes to your children, moms are right there like pit bulls to protect them. But when it comes to oneself, and how you measure your worth, I will tell you that it is time to wake up, people, and ask for what you're worth, and the universe will give you double. Sharon, great to have you here on this one. Let's talk about this. I mean, you know, what do you think? I'm a little fired up today because I've had several calls this morning, and, you know, they're business development calls or they're coaching calls. And I had two people ask me to go in, change their website, and lower their rates. Now, I have a sales coach, a very expensive person that I have talked with for, oh my God, like 4 decades. I get 15 minutes. And the one time I said to him, do you think we should drop our rates? He hung up on me. And so, but that's a small piece of the pie. Yeah. One of the pie we're building is to become the architect of our own lives and the master of the winds of change. And it doesn't mean we don't change our rates or we don't change our perspective. But what happens? What happens when fear is driving the ship?
Whoa. Yes, fear does drive the ship quite often. I have found in the last week, like yourself, I have been on a lot of coaching calls, okay? And then I get to talk to my coach, and I'm told that I should not lower my rates because people do not value when you give away things for free or when you are cheap, as they say. They figure you're no good. So I have to really follow that theme right now and say, well, if you really need me, if you really need what I have to offer, then you would see that you're getting a real bargain, because I spend a lot of time developing my courses, and I also spend a lot of time, and also what I give, sometimes I overgive, and I've been told that is bad as well. So now I'm starting to think critically about this overgiving part of it, because, I agree. I'm not afraid. There's no fear right now because I figure if you need me, I'm here.
Yeah.
If you
exactly.
respect what I do, I'm here. Other than that, I can just give you a few tips and say, well, good luck, and I wish you all the best. I couldn't do that before because I guess I felt guilty of letting somebody go without helping them or without giving them what it is that I thought would help them to set them on the road to becoming the architect of their lives, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were right about that fear.
Yes, it is. And then the one thing that triggers our self-worth, I have found in my own experience, but I've been able to, what is the right word? I have been able to do a workaround around career and job loss. And for me, when I lost my job, I think about what would have happened if I didn't immediately think, as my boss is pulling my badge off, to call Columbia and see if they would accept me in school. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because school was a distraction from dealing with a 25-year career that I no longer had. Then I moved to Seattle, and then there I am in Seattle waiting for my next move. Let's talk for a minute about job loss. And I'm telling you that I've studied it, I've researched it, and as much as the academicians would love for us to wipe away job insecurity, it is a real thing, Sharon. What do you think?
It is. It's very prevalent these days as well, Dr. Pat. And it's very, very sad because what it does, it really plays havoc with somebody's ego as well and their self-worth. And therefore, when I have anybody that's coming to me for mentoring, because I mentor, I'm not a coach, but I'm a transformational mentor.
Yes.
I have to work with their mindset. I have got to lead them away from feeling the dejection and the loss that they have just experienced, because it takes some time before they can even begin to work on their own future, their lives. So you were pretty good. You jumped in right away, but everybody doesn't do that. Some people just sit there and sort of, feel sorry for themselves for the longest while.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a lady, she sent me her son because he was not moving. He wasn't doing anything, whatever. And she was really worried about him. And I was thinking about him today because this is like 25 years later. He's very successful. He's in a terrific career. He designed his life. And this is what I found so amazing. He worked with me. He designed his life. He designed the woman he wanted to meet and the children he wanted to have. He wanted a boy and a girl. Well, he got the girl first and the boy after. However, it just goes to show that if I hadn't worked with him or he hadn't had, let's say, he was a young guy and I was his motherly type. So he came to me and he believed and he followed what I gave him, all the advice and how to set up his career. And it's really something to just see how wonderful he has moved on in the world. But everybody is not like that.
Yeah. This is the conversation that I think we're picking up where we left off. And what I want to say to people is we've been talking about become the architect of your own life. And you do have to master the winds of change. But people have real feelings. I have a book over here called The Dissertation, which gathered over 200 interviews, 1,200 pages of interview notes on exactly this topic and how shocked and broken people are and how little we offer people. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what do people go through? There's an emotional component of having your career cut short or your job title changed. There's the famous downgrade, right? But all of these things are not given much attention. You see, we'll often direct people to go get support and help when something else happens in life. But job loss is right up there in the top 3 of things that impact and affect every part of our life. So let's talk about this. How do people feel?
Sure.
What have you experienced?
Oh, broken. for one word.
Yeah.
Just broken. And sometimes not even able to cope with the daily stress or their daily lives. And that is very, very heartbreaking, because I tend to get that motherly feeling sometimes when I'm working with people and I see how broken they are, and despairing as well. Despairing is like there's nothing. They feel that and you know what? Also, Dr. Pat, they don't feel worthy any longer.
Exactly.
Because they're like disposable. You become disposable when you're thrown out like that. So it's very difficult. And I always have to work, and I'm fortunate to be a therapist, so I can work with them on that level first. And then we graduate to gradually they're being able to have some confidence and some clarity where they want to go with their lives. So that's how I have to work with someone. A lot of therapy first.
Yeah. And let's talk about that, because everybody seems to think, and I say everybody as a very generic, most people seem to think that we have normalized job loss. No. That would be like normalizing the death of a sibling, a child. You know what I'm saying? No, you cannot normalize that. It is a really impactful thing. And so what do you find is the best way to help people pull themselves up, so to speak? But I want to tell you, when I lost my job, I went to a lot of therapy. And I couldn't believe the things running through my mind. It wasn't so much about, oh, what am I going to do next? That wasn't it. It's like, who am I? What now? I don't have any value. And then I go to one of these, what do they call them? With job placements.
Yeah, the Employment Resource Center place.
Thank you. And the guy says to me, well, you're never going to get a job with this. And I'm like, oh my God, did you look at my resume? And he says, yeah, bottom line is you work for the same company for 25 years. I said, but did you look at the individual jobs? He said, yeah, but nobody's going to look at this. So what did I have to do? I went back and I had to change each different position that I had to not read that it was in AT&T. And I said to him, dude, AT&T is like a mega place. But you see, emotionally, now hearing that, I'm really out of it. So how do you start working with somebody? Therapy is a must. If you're listening to this and you're going, oh no, the T word, yeah, we are. Yes. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't get help. But where do you start with people?
Well, with the therapy and helping them to realize that they're not broken and getting them back to get their confidence. That's very important, because people have lost confidence in themselves, thinking they're not worthy any longer. And that's where I start. I start building. It's a thing slowly, step by step. And each person is different. I mean, I have never come across two people with the same, how should I say, way of handling things. So the mental stress sometimes, and there's a confidence bit, there's the emotional stress, there's a financial stress. You have to sort of help them to balance and see which one it comes first. They're all been hit from every side, left, right, center. So therefore, I would start with therapy. That's what I normally do. And then I have to build their confidence and let them realize that they are worthy. That's the most important thing. People start to feel that they're no longer worthy. They're no longer hireable or able to get a position. So that's a very difficult way of having to deal with someone and feeling that sometimes I feel I'm not doing enough because they're so despondent. It takes weeks sometimes to get somebody to really get out of that despondency and build confidence. And what I do, which is very different to most people, I take confidence and I follow through with the words. With the C, I tell them they've got to have some courage. And then with the O, I said, no, we have got to get your life organized again. And you organized because you have so much to offer. And that's one of the things that makes builds the ego up a bit too, because, hey, we need our ego to really help us with the confidence. So, and then I go on to the N in the confidence, which is nurture yourself. Do not let this just drag you down. Don't get sick from it, because you can get sick. And then I go on to the I, which is, the F, which is faith. Have faith in yourself, and have faith in a higher person, a higher purpose, or a being that. And then I work a little bit about the faith part, because I don't get into a lot of people's, that type of thing with them. And we work our way down all the way, and they have choices. I say you have a choice. And then at the bottom, by the time we're finished with the confidence and they get to the E, they're empowered to a certain extent. So I use that as a chart, and I go down, and sometimes it takes weeks to go through just one area of that chart.
Yeah. And, I want to just touch upon something you've said. Thank you for giving us the process you use. It's so important. One of the things that we don't realize with folks that go through job loss is they need structure, and they need structure in the kind of support. And what you just described is that you walk them through different phases that they can implement. Now, let's get real about it. Between let me see if I can remember my numbers real quick. Between 1979 and 1993, 93 was the hotbed of downsizing. Between those years, job loss estimates, 43 million. And most of them coming at the tail end in 91, 92. My company happened to be the second largest. AT&T followed Exxon in suit. But here's the misunderstanding. We just think that, okay, that was 1992. Everybody should get over it. No, they don't. My interview and my research shows that 10, 15 years later, after an experience of job loss, the level of betrayal and hurt is still with people. Can you talk to that from a clinical perspective, from a psychological perspective? Can you talk to how we can re-educate people that sometimes this doesn't go away that easily?
It doesn't. And you got to use just plain words with people sometimes, because I'm trying to remember where I was at that stage in my life and where I was at that. I think I was working, was I with an agency that, it was a counseling agency I was working with. And it was very devastating to always have to meet these people on a level whereby, here it is, I have a job and they have no job. And I'm sitting down with them and I'm talking to them, and they're just, it's going over their heads altogether. So I'm trying to remember where I was at that point in time, because I've done quite a lot of changes since then. And I didn't get into my therapy work until in 97, when I joined the Center for Transpersonal Psychology and that. So I was in a counseling agency, a government-run United Way agency, where we had flocks of people coming in, and I just recalled what I was doing. We had a lot of domestic violence. That was the offshoot. I had to go right back in time, Dr. Pat, for that. And that was an offshoot of people losing their jobs, and people being frustrated, and people not knowing where to turn. And I was not a therapist. I was an intake worker at that company for about a year. And that's where it gave me the feeling and the wanting to help people, that I went on to the Transpersonal Center. But 93, 91, 92, and there were also companies downsizing, car companies laying people off left, right, and center. 500 people, 700 people. And I lived through that with Motorola Canada, actually. I worked in human resources for the director of human resources. And whenever Schaumburg in Illinois decided that we had to cut in Canada, they sent us a list or just a number, cut 200. And that bothered me so much that my boss used to say to me, okay, Sharon, it's Friday afternoon. If you'd like to leave at 3:00, you may leave, because we worked until 4:30. And then I knew that when I come in on Monday morning, I won't be seeing the same people that I knew, the people that came to me in my job. I interacted with everybody. We had 700 or 800 people on the plant. So that was an instance where I think it all worked its way up into pushing me to becoming, to studying and becoming a therapist and working with people. Yeah. And that's where I started. But in 93, I had to think all the way back. I mean, it's been a long time since 93 for me, you know.
It has, but I have the same story. I mean, it wasn't until my own incident that got me back in school and then got me to study the consequences of psychological contract violation, better known as broken promises, for 10 years. But something you said I want to get to, I know there's a quote that you use from Drucker, and I got to talk to Peter Drucker. I went to the school that Peter Drucker taught, Claremont.
Wonderful.
And yes. And he did not like us psychology people, but we would drop in and sit in his class. And for 3 hours, he didn't move. He just talked. And we were the only people that would raise our hands and ask questions. So my question was him, because I know how he felt about careers, that the best way to handle careers is to really work on your future, is always have a game plan. I don't think that's his exact quote. But one of the things I talked to him about, and it was 1994. And of course, I got to, in all of those layoffs, all of those downsizing, they were my subject base. And it was the hotbed of downsizing. But there was something I said to Drucker, and I said, Doctor, I said, listen, I've read all your books. You even came to my organization. And then he asked me what organization. I said AT&T, and he rolled his eyes. So that said everything to me. But then I asked him a question. I said, look, this is what I'm studying, but there's also something else that has to be addressed. And it's what you just said, Sharon. It's called survivor syndrome. And if you don't think that 1 minute you're in a room and sharing it with somebody you shared with 10 years, and you come in on Monday and they are no longer there, you didn't take the downsizing cut, but they did. This is like job loss has more tentacles than an octopus. Wouldn't you agree to that?
And especially, I didn't add in that we had many husbands and wives working in our plant at that time. So when both were let go, that was like a double whammy to the family, to their finances and everything. And after a while, I couldn't take working in that area any longer. And I downsized into another department, a lateral move. They didn't reduce my salary or anything. However, I went and worked for the group of engineers, because that was less stressful to me. And that I know, because I spoke to some of the women afterwards. I met them in certain places like the grocery or wherever. And they would say, oh, I so miss talking to you. And we're still looking for jobs. And I would walk out of wherever it was that we were talking or met, wherever we'd meet. And I would just feel terrible for these people. In fact, I don't think I'm a very good therapist in a sense where I feel for people on a very deep level. So it's like, okay, Sharon, what are you doing? That kind of thing. But I guess I have a big heart, and I'm the eldest of 6 children, and I've always been, taking care of everybody. So it's like awful when you can see people suffering. And right now, Dr. Pat, it's going on with women of our age group, because they're all being let go from their positions. And I'm sure that what they're working for is just to sort of to keep their income and bolster their income. And when they get let go, what do they have? Nothing.
Yeah. So in the United States now, with this latest edict to not really uphold the diversity strategy that has been in this country for decades, that has been removed. And at the top of the food chain, it's women. They're the ones getting cut. And it is the idea of it's so deeply seated in our biases, and we're starting to see it. But the most important thing that you are talking about to me is this sense of powerlessness that people feel.
That's the word. Thank you. Powerlessness.
Yeah.
Everybody, and it isn't only women now, I'm finding men as well are starting to feel powerless because they have no idea what the next turn or next step or what they're going to be doing next. And that's very disheartening for them, for their families, because all of a sudden they're like a leaf blowing in the wind. They're just getting blown left, right, and center, and they're not sure where they're going and how. In fact, they're not even sure that they're worthy. And that's very, very disheartening right now in our world.
Yeah.
I don't know if you find that.
Yes. And they don't find another chapter. And both you and I are examples of creating multiple other chapters. But the thing that I learned from all this is I couldn't do it alone. I couldn't overcome it alone. I needed help. And I had one or two people in my life that were extremely supportive. You know, before we get to the end here, how do people find out more about you, Sharon? How do they work with you? Can you let us have that information, please?
Oh, certainly. Yes, of course, Dr. Pat. My website is Sharon de Ryck, DERYCK.com. And they can find everything for me with my telephone number and my email. Everything is at SharonDeRyck.com. And I made it quite easy. Thank you. You know why, of course. And so that's where they can find me, and they can read all about me on that site, because it's going on to construction for the longest while, but I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to land with what I'm doing. So I haven't really moved it forward quickly as I should. Yeah.
Don't worry about that. If you ever need help, we build websites for our clients. Just
you do.
FYI. Yeah, you and I, let's have coffee, talk about that.
Yeah, that's
we know how to move this thing along. But you know what I'm going to do when this, Emily, when this interview is finished and it's edited, what I'm going to do is we're going to put it up on our site. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of the quotes from my research and attach it almost like to the after part of the video, so that people can get the gut-wrenching sense of what you're doing to help people move forward. There's nothing to describe what happens to a person, not a single thing. But I will tell you this. We looked for one manager for 4 days. He didn't go home. 4 days. We looked for him. We found him in his car. He couldn't get out of his car. He couldn't face his wife. He couldn't face his family. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Sharon, thank you for what you do. I'm telling you, if you are in this situation, you need to get some help to move forward. Call Sharon. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pat. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
For those of you out there, if you want to reverse the effects of powerlessness, help is here. Just remember, you're not really expected to handle this alone.
No, never, never. Not a one bit. No, there's always someone there ready to be there with you and hold your hand and lead you there to wherever it is that you're meant to be. And that's really wonderful. And I should have mentioned quickly that with the law of attraction, I go through about 10 different laws, and it's not attraction alone. It's, release and there's a whole lot, like 10 or 12. And I do those steps with my clients, and it is wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Pat.
I love it. Thank you for taking this topic on, because it's almost like we have gone 0 dark 30 talking about this situation as if it doesn't exist anymore. And for y'all in the United States, keep your eye on the unemployment rate. Just keep your eye on what's happening here. And remember to hold the highest level of consciousness, to raise yourself up.
That's right.
And believe in yourself. Sharon, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all next time.